No matter if you're working on a homestead, on your own personal property, or anywhere else, anytime you're working with a chainsaw, one thing is for sure. The chain is going to get dull, and I'm going to show you how to sharpen it today. Today we're going to be using a Husqvarna 450 E-Series. Anyone that is well versed with Huskies, you'll notice that the bar on this Husky is not the original. They are typically a little shorter. However, I've changed the internals on here and was able to accommodate a different oiler, a new bar with a bigger chain. Shout out to Curtis if you're watching this video. Thanks for helping me out on this chainsaw. Now let's get down to business. Some people like to sharpen their chain on the chainsaw themselves. However, I do not like that because you need a vise in order to do that. And the way this vise is situated, there's no way for me to attach this bar on here and the chainsaw as well, unless I slide it over to another table, which I'm not about to do. So I'm going to take this chain off and I'll be right back. Alright, I got the chain off the bar and it's time to sharpen it. Now the question still remains, when do you need to sharpen your chainsaw chain? So if you have a sharp chain, you can typically go, from my experience, and fall some trees, and you can get about 3 off of one nice sharp chain. You can get more depending on how you sharpen your chain. However, that's just from my experience, and you can also get less than 3 full-length trees as well. That all depends on if you're hitting stones, you're hitting the dirt, when you're cutting them on the ground, things of that nature. One thing to pay attention to when you are cutting trees, or wood for that matter, is the size of shavings that are coming out of your chainsaw. If you are having fairly large flakes come off as you're cutting, your chain is very sharp, or still sharp enough to do the job. And you can usually feel that because you can cut it without putting on any effort at all. If you have a dull blade or a dull chain, you are going to be working a lot harder, and as you're using the chainsaw, you're going to be going what I like to call full speed in neutral and just sending off sawdust. Very, very fine wood shavings. It'll be dust basically. At that point in time, it's time to sharpen your chain. And that's why we are here today. A quick tip before I get into sharpening this chain. If you have only one chain, do yourself a favor and purchase multiple chains. Living on the homestead here, we need wood for everything, from firewood for the house to building material to you name it. Finishing material, doing wood frames for windows, things of that nature. So I have on hand between 30 and 50 chains ready to go. And this will be actually my last chain, and I thought this would be a great time to do this video. Also, before I get into this, if you find this video helpful, please hit the thumbs up, subscribe to the channel if you have not subscribed yet, and hit the bell so you can get some more videos coming. So let's get into this. So this is your typical Oregon chain that you can buy. This one is a number 73, and it has pretty good teeth on it. It's fairly new. One thing you'll notice with these newer chains is that the manufacturer actually leaves a little, I'm not sure if I can get that in there, but there's a little line on the top of the tooth itself, and that'll give you the angle at which you need to put your file in to sharpen each tooth. And the way I like to do it, everyone's got their own different ways. So after watching this video, if you want to go and look at other videos and find your own little way of doing it, you can. Some people like to also file down this depth gauge here. To me, it doesn't make any sense because all I'm doing is sharpening the tooth. I'm not changing the depth at which the tooth is cutting. And I have not had any issues with that. Some people call me crazy. Hey, teach their own, right? So a couple things you're gonna need depending on the type of chainsaw that you're using. And today, like I said, I'm using a 450 Husqvarna. And you're gonna need some round files in order to do that. And the one I'm using today is I can't get the measurement on this one. I would say this is a 1/4 inch. So I'll take my 1/4 inch round file, and what I'll do is you got to make sure that when you're in the tooth of the chainsaw chain, that you have about a 1/4 of an, at least an 1/8, if not about 3/16 protruding from the top of your tooth. That way, when you are sharpening, you're sharpening the underside of your tooth. So that way, when it comes across, it has something to catch, and it's sharp, and it actually cuts the wood. Now, there are some tools out there you can get. You can get some sharpening kits. You can get some actual sharpeners that you just, the machine does it yourself, but those things tend to break down. However, this here and this here typically don't break down, and they're always in working order. You don't have to rely on electricity, moving parts. The only moving part is this guy. So let's get into this. So one thing you want to do is make sure that you do not tangle your chain like I have done as such. All right, now that I've got this undone, quick tip is if you want to give someone something to do, twist up your chain like I just had and get them to take that out. And depending on how it loops in and out, they could be there for a very long time. So it's pretty interesting. So keep that in mind. Now let's get into this right here. So I like to place my chain down on this file or this vise. I like to open the teeth up probably about 1/8 of an inch, just enough for the teeth on the bottom to set in, just like it would in your chainsaw bar. Now, quick tip here. This is very important. What you're gonna wanna do is before you start getting all hot and heavy into the sharpening of this, you're gonna need to mark your starting point. So I like to just take a little Sharpie and mark the top of the tooth of the very first one that I'm starting. Now, when you get into the sharpening of these chains, you're gonna notice that the chains are, or the teeth are half facing one side and half facing the other. So I'll mark only the one tooth right now. I'll do all the same ones that face in that direction, and then I'll rub that mark out once I get back to it, flip the chain over, and do it again after I mark it. The reason I do that is so that I don't have to go here, sharpen. So let me get my file here. So I don't have to start filing like this and then go back like this. Back to this. It's a little annoying, right? So I'm like an efficient person here. So I like to just do my thing, move it this way, skip one, next, and so on and so forth. Now, when you do start sharpening your chain, like I was saying, you're gonna want the file a little bigger than the actual tooth itself. That way you can sharpen the underside of it as well. One thing that you're gonna need to pay attention to though is you put your file in. Now, some people will tell you that you need to run it up. Run the file upwards to get the top of the tooth, or the underside of that tooth. In my experience, that's not the best. I like to actually go down, that way that my file is facing downwards and hitting the tooth on my right hand side first, and as I'm sharpening it, it sharpens the rest of it as well. And the reason I do that is, if you look at these chains, or the chain itself, there's a little link down here on the bottom. Right underneath this tooth, there's a link. So if I jam my file in and I start filing up like that, I'm going to start filing this link down, and I've had them break before because of that filing. That's why I recommend that when you do file, you face downwards, not upwards like this, to prevent you from hitting that link in there. Now, everyone's got their own way of doing this. This is how I do it. I like to get onto the first one that I marked, and keeping that angle on there, I like to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I typically do 5 passes. Some people say 10. Some people don't like to count at all, and they just go by eye. And depending on if you're very experienced in it, it could work for you. However, if you're just starting out like that, keep on the counting side of things. That way that your chain is evenly filed, it's evenly filed and sharpened. The reason you don't want to do, say, 6 here, 3 there, and then go on the other side and do random numbers, is that your chain won't be evenly sharpened. And that way, when you go to cut a tree down, the problem with that is you won't be cutting in a straight line. Your chain will have a tendency to start cutting on an angle, and then you're getting into more interesting cuts and possibly other problems as well. So like I said, I just did that one. That was 5 swipes. And then I'll get on to the next one. 1, 2, 3, whoops, came out. 4, 5. And you'll notice if this is a chain that you've been using, obviously it will be, that you'll have some stuff built up onto the tooth. And as you're sharpening, excuse my handle here, as you're sharpening, you're gonna notice all that gunk coming off. And you'll get a nice shiny edge on that. And that's basically it. Like I said, you can sharpen the depth gauge if you want. However, I've never found it to benefit me. Try this out on your spare time before you get out in the woods. The last thing you want to do is think that you've sharpened your chain, and then you go out there and realize it has not been sharpened properly. You didn't get the angle right. You didn't do enough passes. So if you're new to this, please try it at home on a spare piece. Make sure you're getting those big shavings coming off and not sawdust. Make sure you're able to cut in a straight line and that it's not cutting on a angle. And one other tip is, as you're sharpening, you'll see filings coming down. Tap your file once in a while, get your the metal filings out of the file itself, just so it has a good edge. And another thing, please, is don't be going in there 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's not the right way to do it. A file only sharpens or files in one direction, and this file is in the forward motion. So you'll do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. That's it. There's no need to go back and forth, back and forth. Some people might argue that. However, I've been in the trade for 20 years. I filed lots of steel, worked with steel all my life, so I kind of know how a file works. If you want to go test it out by all means. I'm trying to help people out here to do things a little easier. And that's all you do. You just start 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And don't be afraid to put in a little bit of force on there and hold it with both hands. Don't just do it with one, because then you won't be distributing even pressure across the whole tooth itself. And that's basically all it takes to sharpen your chain. Another thing is, make sure you're using good oil in your chainsaw, making sure that the chain itself doesn't burn out. And make sure that the teeth on the top are not getting too thin. So over time, as you're sharpening this chain, you're going to notice that this top part here is going to get thinner and thinner and thinner. I would file it basically till it gets to that line, that angle line, and I would call it good. However, if you want to be cheap, you can go until it breaks. To each their own, right? Hopefully you got some good tips out of this one. Like I said, hit the like, the subscribe button, and the bell, and I'll see you on the next one.